Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment a woman standing alone, surrounded by a world full of social connections, yet feeling disconnected. She has no friends, or at least that's what the world might label her. But if we truly examine the situation, could there be more to her story than meets the eye? At first glance, it may seem like something is missing. Society tells us that friendships are essential to happiness, that we are incomplete without the companionship of others. But what if, instead of seeing this woman as lacking something, we begin to view her in a different light? What if the absence of friends isn't a void, but an invitation to discover the most important relationship of all, the one she has with herself? When we speak of self-connection, it's not about simply being by yourself in a room or retreating to solitude. It's about discovering a profound bond with who you truly are, your essence, your spirit, and your authentic self. Often in the hustle of life, we become so busy trying to please others, meet expectations, and fit into the molds that society has created for us that we forget to ask ourselves one simple question: who am I? We seek validation from friends, from colleagues, from family, hoping that their approval will fill the void we feel. But the real magic happens when we realize that no external source can truly define us or make us whole. We are born whole. We are born complete. And the only connection we truly need is the one we cultivate with ourselves. The power of self-connection lies in the ability to quiet the noise of the world and listen to the voice that resides deep within us. Imagine for a moment that you're surrounded by constant chatter voices telling you what you should do, who you should be, how you should act. But then, imagine that for once you step back from it all. You find a quiet space, and in that space you simply listen. You listen to your heart. You listen to your heart. You listen to your dreams, your desires, your fears. For the first time, you give yourself the time and the attention you deserve. It's in that space of stillness that you begin to uncover your truest desires, your unspoken passions, the things that make you uniquely you. Self-connection is not about being selfish, but about understanding that you cannot give your best to others unless you first give it to yourself. Just as a car needs fuel to run, just as a garden needs care to bloom, your soul needs love, respect, and understanding in order to thrive. When we learn to connect with ourselves in this way, we begin to see that all the answers we've been seeking externally were already inside of us, waiting to be discovered. We don't need to search the world for validation or approval. We need only to look within. And in that looking, we find a wellspring of wisdom, peace, and strength that has always been ours to tap into. The beauty of self-connection is that it allows you to shed the layers that others have placed on you. For years, you may have worn masks to fit into the roles others expected you to play. You may have been the caretaker, the provider, the achiever, or the quiet one. But beneath all those layers, there's a person waiting to emerge, a person who is free to live authentically, who has the power to create, to dream, and to lead with passion. The more you connect with yourself, the more you begin to understand that you are not confined to the limits others have set for you. You are limitless. You are not defined by your past, your circumstances, or even the relationships you have. You are defined by the choices you make today, by the power you give yourself to become the person you were always meant to be. When you have a deep connection with yourself, you no longer need to seek approval from others. You are no longer waiting for someone to tell you that you're enough. You already know it. You understand that you have unique gifts to offer the world, and that your presence, your voice, and your actions matter. Your worth is not determined by the number of friends you have or the accolades you've accumulated. It is determined by your ability to stand tall in your truth and to love yourself unconditionally, flaws and all. When you are grounded in this connection, you are free to move through the world with confidence and grace, knowing that you are enough just as you are. True self-connection is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. It takes practice, patience, and a willingness to face the parts of ourselves that we may have ignored or hidden away. But the rewards of this journey are immeasurable. The more we connect with ourselves, the more we begin to experience life with clarity and purpose. We become less concerned with fitting in and more focused on living authentically. We stop comparing ourselves to others and start celebrating our own unique journey. We let go of the need to be perfect and embrace our imperfections as the beautiful, powerful parts of ourselves that they are. Self-connection is the foundation of all other connections. It's the root from which every relationship we have with others grows. When we are fully connected with ourselves, we naturally attract those who resonate with our true essence. We no longer need to chase after relationships to feel whole because we know that we are whole. We draw in people who see us for who we truly are, and in turn, we form deeper, more meaningful connections. These connections aren't based on superficial things like status, appearance, or external validation. They are rooted in authenticity, love, and mutual respect. When you cultivate the power of self-connection, you begin to create a life that is rich with purpose, joy, and fulfillment. You stop waiting for the world to give you permission to be happy, to be successful, to be yourself. You realize that you hold the key to your own happiness and that the only person who needs to understand you, love you, and believe in you is you. And when you embrace this truth, when you step into your own power, the world around you begins to shift. Doors open, opportunities arise, and you walk through life with the knowledge that you are the creator of your own destiny. So let us not look at the absence of others in our lives as a deficiency. Instead, let us embrace it as an opportunity for self-connection, self-discovery, and self-love. Let us remember that the most important relationship we will ever have is the one we have with ourselves. And when we nurture that bond, we unlock the infinite potential that resides within us all. Embracing independence is one of the most powerful and transformative steps anyone can take in their life, especially for a woman standing alone in a world that often pressures us to conform, to seek external validation, and to be defined by the relationships we hold with others. It's a concept that may seem daunting at first, but when we learn to embrace our independence, we discover a well of strength and resilience we never knew we had. Independence is not about isolation, attachment from the world around us. It is about recognizing our own worth and learning to trust ourselves fully. It's about shedding the need for approval from others and stepping into the fullness of our own power. When we are independent, we are not bound by the expectations of others. We are free to be who we truly are without the need to fit into predefined roles or to conform to external pressures. This freedom is liberating. It opens up a world where we are guided by our own values, our own dreams, and our own instincts. A woman embracing independence learns to rely on her inner resources, discovering that she is capable of much more than she ever thought possible. When the noise of the world quiets down, when there are no distractions, she finds a deep well of strength within her. She understands that she doesn't need anyone else to define her. She can navigate her own journey, make her own decisions, and create a life that feels true to her soul. The power of independence is rooted in the belief that you are enough just as you are, and that your worth doesn't come from the approval of others, it comes from within. Being independent also means stepping into the role of your own greatest supporter. We often look to others for encouragement, for validation, for reassurance that we are on the right path. But what if we could be the ones who offer that support to ourselves? What if, instead of seeking validation from external sources, we learn to cultivate that inner confidence? When a woman embraces her independence, she becomes her own cheerleader, her own anchor. She trusts that no matter the challenges she faces, she has everything she needs inside her to overcome them. The resilience she builds in this process is unshakable because it is rooted in the knowledge that she is capable, worthy, and enough regardless of outside circumstances. Independence also creates the space for profound personal growth. When we stop looking outward for answers, we start turning inward and listening to our own wisdom. In this silence, we find clarity, direction, and purpose. The woman who embraces independence begins to trust her instincts more deeply. She learns to make decisions based on what feels right to her, not based on what others think or expect. This is where personal power is born when we stop second-guessing ourselves and start listening to the quiet wisdom that resides within us. Independence allows us to step into a space of creative flow where we are not held back by the opinions or judgments of others. It frees us to explore, to experiment, and to discover new paths that we might have never considered before. At the heart of independence is the recognition that we are whole, complete, and worthy of love and respect, regardless of our relationship status or how many friends we have. In a society that often places value on external connections, embracing independence means standing firm in the truth that we are enough in our own right. We are not defined by the people around us, but by the choices we make, the values we hold, and the love we give ourselves. This is the true essence of freedom when we are no longer seeking outside approval, but instead we are rooted in the knowledge that we are already whole. When a woman embraces her independence, she stops waiting for someone else to give her permission to live her life fully. She stops measuring her worth by the number of friends she has or the approval she receives from others. She realizes that the only approval she needs is her own. And once she fully embraces that truth, her life begins to shift in powerful ways. She creates her own opportunities, she designs her own path, and she builds a life that reflects her deepest desires. Independence, then, is not about shutting out the world or rejecting the idea of relationships. It's about coming to the understanding that we can be fully independent and yet still experience connection. When we are independent, we are able to show up in relationships with others from a place of wholeness, not neediness. We no longer rely on others to complete us. Instead, we bring our full, authentic selves to every interaction, free from the pressures of expectation. True independence empowers us to create the relationships we truly desire, relationships that are grounded in mutual respect, love, and authenticity. To embrace independence is to step into the power of self-determination. It's to acknowledge that you are capable of creating your own happiness, of defining your own success, and of living a life that is aligned with your soul's purpose. It is not a rejection of the world, it is an affirmation of your own strength and capability. And when you embrace that, when you realize that you are the creator of your own reality, you unlock a power within you that can move mountains. So let us not shy away from the call to embrace independence. Let us stand tall, knowing that we have everything we need within us to build the life we desire, to be the person we are meant to be. In this journey of independence, we find not only our strength, but our true freedom. And in that freedom, we discover the fullness of who we are. Loneliness is often seen as something to avoid, a sign that something is wrong, or even a failure in some way. We are conditioned to believe that loneliness is a void that needs to be filled by friends, by relationships, by anything or anyone that can provide comfort and connection. But what if we started to see loneliness differently? What if we began to view it not as an empty space to fear, but as an opportunity, a gift that can lead us to the most profound discoveries of our lives? Imagine standing in a moment of solitude. The world around you is quiet, and yet there's a stillness that holds incredible potential. In those moments, we are given the freedom to explore the depths of our thoughts, to understand our true desires, and to reflect on our lives with clarity. It is in these moments of loneliness that we can come face to face with the most authentic version of ourselves, unencumbered by the opinions and distractions of others. Here, in the silence, we have the chance to understand who we really are outside of what anyone else has ever told us. Loneliness, when embraced, becomes fertile ground for growth. It's often in the absence of others that we find our most creative ideas and solutions. When we are alone, we have the space to listen to our inner voice, the voice that is often drowned out by the noise of everyday life. We can hear our own thoughts without interruption, and it is here that inspiration can strike. The greatest artists, writers, and thinkers have often found their best work during times of solitude. They didn't wait for the world to be perfect or for the ideal conditions to arrive. They made use of the quiet moments, and in doing so, created masterpieces that have stood the test of time. So why should we see loneliness as a hindrance when it can serve as a launch pad for the most meaningful parts of our lives? Think of loneliness as a blank canvas. It might feel uncomfortable at first, unfamiliar, but once we settle into it, something beautiful begins to emerge. We can stop searching for validation from others and start looking inward. The person who embraces solitude has the space to create a life that is fully their own, a life that is not dictated by external forces, but by their own values, passions, and choices. And in that space of creative freedom, loneliness no longer feels like a burden, but a privilege, a time to become the person we were always meant to be. This reframing of loneliness challenges the way we have been taught to think about it. It asks us to embrace the discomfort, to sit with it, and to recognize the power within that silence. In those moments, we are not empty or broken, we are whole. It is in the stillness that we come to realize that we have everything we need within us. We don't need others to complete us, we are already complete. The woman who is alone, the person who finds themselves without the company of others, is not lacking. They are simply in a space of growth, a space where they can begin to build a stronger, more resilient sense of self. When we stop viewing loneliness as something to escape, we open the door to the kind of self-empowerment that comes from within. We no longer need to search for fulfillment outside of ourselves. It is here in our solitude that we learn how to be our own best friend, to show ourselves the same compassion, love, and understanding that we so often seek from others. Loneliness becomes a teacher, showing us how to care for ourselves deeply, how to stand tall in our own presence, and how to find peace even in the quietest of moments. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't rush to fill the space. Don't seek out distractions or try to chase away the silence. Instead, welcome it. Let it guide you inward. Let it help you discover new parts of yourself, and let it remind you that you are whole exactly as you are. When we learn to reframe loneliness, we realize that it is not something to fear, but a chance to grow into the person we've always been meant to be. Solitude, my friends, is often misunderstood in a world that thrives on connection, on social bonds, and on constant interaction. We are told that being alone is something to be avoided, something that signals loneliness or even failure. Yet the beauty of solitude is a treasure that many never truly discover. It is in solitude that the soul finds its truest expression. It is in the quiet moments when the world around us fades into silence that we can hear the voice within. The woman who has no friends, the one who walks alone, is gifted with the opportunity to experience this beauty firsthand. In the stillness, she can reflect deeply on her thoughts, on her desires, and on her dreams. Solitude allows us to peel back the layers of noise and distraction that so often cloud our true understanding of who we are. It's in these moments of solitude that we can finally be honest with ourselves, free from the judgments or expectations of others. We can ask ourselves the tough questions, challenge the assumptions we've made, and dig deep into the very essence of our being. This is where we uncover our passions, our purpose, and the things that bring us true joy, not the fleeting pleasures that others might expect from us, but a lasting fulfillment that comes from living authentically. When we are alone, we are given the space to listen to the rhythms of our own heart. We can hear the call of our intuition, the whispers of our deepest wisdom. How many times have we been too busy, too distracted by the presence of others to listen to that inner voice? In solitude, that voice becomes louder, clearer, and more insistent. It is here that we gain clarity about our desires, our goals, and the direction we wish to take in life. Without the external noise, we are able to tune into the quiet, powerful force within us that knows exactly what we need to do. But there is another layer to the beauty of solitude, and that is the freedom it provides. The woman who walks alone is free from the constraints of social expectations. She is not bound by the roles that others try to place upon her, nor is she obligated to live up to anyone else's ideals. She is free to be herself without the need to conform or to please. This freedom is not about rebellion or isolation, it is about ownership. It is about taking full responsibility for her own life, her own choices, and her own path. In solitude, she finds the courage to follow her heart, to take risks, and to pursue the life she has always dreamed of without fear of judgment or failure. In solitude, too, we find time for creativity. It is in the stillness that the mind can wander freely, unimpeded by external demands or distractions. The woman who is alone is not limited by the need to fit into a specific mold or role. She is free to create, to explore new ideas, and to experiment with possibilities that others might dismiss. Solitude becomes a fertile ground for innovation, for self-expression, and for the birth of new ideas. Without the influence of others, she can reconnect with her own creative power and begin to express herself in ways that are unique to her. Moreover, solitude provides a space for growth. It is easy to be swept along by the current of life, to get caught up in the expectations and demands of the outside world. But when we are alone, we have the opportunity to pause, to reflect, and to grow at our own pace. There is no rush, no pressure. We can take the time to nurture ourselves, to heal from past wounds, and to become the person we are meant to be. It is in solitude that we have the chance to strengthen our inner foundation, to build resilience, and to cultivate a deep sense of self-love and acceptance. The beauty of solitude is not just about being alone, it is about discovering the depths of who we truly are. In a world that constantly pulls us outward, we are often disconnected from our inner truth. But in solitude, we return to ourselves. We reconnect with the person we were always meant to be, the person who is whole, complete, and capable of creating a life filled with purpose and meaning. The woman with no friends in her solitude finds a relationship more profound than any friendship or relationship with herself that is rich, fulfilling, and enduring. In these quiet moments, she discovers that being alone does not mean being abandoned or empty. Instead, it is an invitation to explore the vast, beautiful landscape of her own soul. It is here in solitude that she finds peace, clarity, and the courage to be her truest self. The beauty of solitude lies in its power to connect us with the deepest parts of ourselves, to guide us toward a life that is uniquely our own. It is in this space of stillness that we are free to truly live, to fully embrace who we are, and to create a life that is truly our own. When we think about friendship, we often envision a life filled with laughter, shared experiences, and emotional support. Society paints a picture of fulfillment that is only possible through a network of friends. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the essence of friendship lies not in the number of people we surround ourselves with, but in the quality of the connections we foster? For the woman standing without a circle of friends, there is a powerful opportunity to redefine what friendship truly means. In a world that places so much emphasis on social connection, she begins to see that friendship is not merely about companionship, it is about depth. She understands that true friendship is not born from the obligation of constant interaction, but from the resonance of shared values, mutual respect, and authentic presence. It's not about filling her life with faces, it's about filling her life with meaning, and that begins within. She starts to understand that the most important relationship is the one she has with herself. When we begin to cultivate a deep connection with our own heart, mind, and soul, we no longer look outward for validation. We no longer feel the need to surround ourselves with people who reflect our insecurities or who demand our energy in a way that depletes us. Instead, we begin to attract individuals who align with the truth of who we are, not the person we pretend to be. In her journey, she learns that friendship doesn't have to be defined by the number of texts exchanged or the frequency of calls. It's not about the people who are always there when things are going well, but about the ones who understand the true essence of her being. True friends, she realizes, are those who respect her growth, who understand her journey, and who see her as she is without judgment, without expectation. They don't demand that she be someone else. They celebrate her for exactly who she is in every stage of her life. In shifting her perspective, she realizes that genuine friendships are built on authenticity, not on surface level connections. It is not the quantity of people in our lives that matters. It is the quality of the relationships we nurture. She learns that one person who truly sees her, who understands her desires, her struggles, and her dreams is worth more than 100 fleeting acquaintances. It is the deep bond with one person who can be trusted, who understands silence as well as words, that holds more value than endless conversations with people who may never understand the depth of her heart. And so she begins to value the space around her. She realizes that sometimes in the quiet we find the clarity to understand what we truly need from others. We can take the time to examine the friendships we already have, questioning whether they are built on authenticity or on false pretenses. And as she delves into this self-awareness, she becomes less afraid of standing alone. She understands that to welcome true friendship into her life, she must first be willing to let go of relationships that drain her energy, that no longer serve her highest good. Friendship, she discovers, is not about fitting into a mold of what others expect of her, nor is it about fulfilling the societal narrative of what relationships should look like. It is about the bonds she chooses to create based on mutual respect, understanding, and support. It is about the people who encourage her growth, who challenge her to be better, who love her not for what she can offer them, but for who she is. These are the friendships that endure, the ones that nourish and uplift, the ones that make her feel seen, valued, and whole. The woman standing without friends learns that it is not the absence of people in her life that defines her. It is her willingness to stand firm in her truth, to cultivate the relationships that truly matter, and to build a life that is meaningful to her. She begins to see that real friendship is about freedom, the freedom to be oneself, the freedom to evolve, and the freedom to surround oneself with people who respect that evolution. In the end, she shifts her view of friendship. It is not a need, it is a choice. It is not about filling a void, it is about creating meaningful connections that add depth and richness to the life she is already creating. And in doing so, she comes to understand that true friendship begins not with others, but within herself. When she embraces this new perspective, she finds that the relationships she desires will come to her not out of obligation or need, but out of the authenticity she now exudes and the truth she lives every day. We are often taught that friendship is the cornerstone of a fulfilling life, a measure of our worth, and a source of validation. From an early age, we are conditioned to believe that the more friends we have, the more valuable we are as individuals. We see images of large gatherings, laughing faces, and intertwined lives as the ultimate representation of happiness. But what if we took a moment to challenge that notion? What if we shifted the way we define friendship, not as a quantity game, but as a reflection of quality, alignment, and authenticity? For the woman with no friends, this shift in perspective is transformative. She begins to realize that true friendship isn't about having a crowd around her. It's not about social status, popularity, or the number of people who text her on her birthday. Instead, it's about connections that resonate on a deeper level, bonds that are built on shared values and mutual respect. She understands that one genuine connection can hold more meaning than 1,000 superficial ones. Friendship, she learns, is not a performance, it is an extension of the love and respect we cultivate within ourselves. As she navigates her journey, she starts to see the beauty in having a smaller, more intentional circle, or even no circle at all for a time. This space allows her to evaluate what she truly wants in a relationship. It gives her the clarity to recognize the difference between people who complement her growth and those who might hinder it. She no longer feels the need to maintain friendships out of obligation or fear of being alone. Instead, she becomes intentional about who she lets into her life. Friendship for her becomes a sacred space reserved for those who honor her boundaries, support her dreams, and inspire her to be the best version of herself. In closing, let us remember that the essence of true friendship is not about how many people we have in our lives, but about the quality of the connections we nurture. The woman who stands alone is not empty. She is filled with the potential to connect deeply with herself and in turn with others who resonate with her true being. As she learns to cultivate self-love, authenticity, and independence, she opens the door to friendships that are rooted in mutual respect, shared values, and a deep understanding of one another. The power to create meaningful relationships lies within each of us, and it begins with embracing who we truly are. So let us not measure our worth by the number of friends we have, but by the depth of the connections we choose to create, connections that honor our growth, our journey, and the beautiful, unique individuals we are becoming.